passe super l'artiste, super, encore un but sensationnel. That's a brilliant bit of follow-up play by Mahe. Oh my goodness me, what a shot.
Sagosen setter det hen! Han setter den! De er i semifinale igjen!
The Olympics are hurtling past us. There's medals being won left, right, and centre. Ireland already has 3 gold medals. So that means that this is a seriously good Olympics for us already. And that's not even counting the amazing handball competition that's going on. Of course, no medals awarded yet, but we already have our quarterfinals set on the women's side and going into the last round on the men's side. As we record, Chris O'Reilly joins me as we're going to do a little quarterfinal preview for the women's side. And then we will follow up with a full men's quarterfinal preview as well. When we know the quarterfinal lineup there, we do have some very nice interviews. Chris, who did you talk to over the last couple of days?
Yes, Alex, I had a chance to have a little chat with Katrina Lunde from Norway and Renars Ustjins from Germany. So we'll throw those in for you at the end of the podcast for you Patreon only listeners, as a little teaser for those of you who haven't joined yet. Thanks to everyone who has joined in the meantime as well and jumped in to the community both on Patreon and for our Discord. It's going to heat up now. Still a whole week of competition left as well. The competition overall has been fantastic, and I'm going to stop myself speaking about the men because we're going to be focusing on the women's one here, but I have really enjoyed the women's competition as well. And heading into this quarterfinal lineup, maybe we can run through the 8 teams that are there. For Tuesday's quarterfinals, it'll be Denmark versus Netherlands, France versus Germany, Hungary versus Sweden, and Norway versus Brazil. And maybe we can look back a little bit, just like the stories of the group that have really stood out for you, Alex. But I just want to say, towards the end of the first half today of Brazil versus Angola, I was feeling very thankful for our most recent guest, Gabi Moreski, who has made that last podcast we did very relevant for just a few more days. A wonderful performance in a really fascinating game that saw Brazil get through to the quarterfinals. That's really something that has stood out for me. How about you?
It's been pretty fun, and yeah, we have to mention this the classic handball hour bounce that happens after a big interview. Gabi Moreski, of course, giving a lovely interview. Is really nice, Chris. A very nice little shout out to to the OGs. She didn't forget the OGs. She was like, oh, well, I know Chris.
Not forgetting me.
He's one of my own. None of these random.
Actually, I have to see now how many Instagram followers she's gotten. I figured after that last victory, she's probably jumped up at least a few tens of thousands in the meantime with the wild drive. Yeah, up to 335,000 now. From Moreski, so tagged on a nice little bit after that last great performance.
Yeah, and really, probably was expecting a little bit more from Angola, a team that will probably feel quite hard done by to get knocked out at this stage, and that's just the standard and the quality that exists at these Olympic Games, and ultimately, it is like. I'm gonna start with a bit of a Debbie Downer approach, and then I'll build it up. I'll build it up from there. And my Debbie Downer view is that really it's kind of the same teams that we've seen for the last 3 or 4 championships, kind of rising to the top. That being the 3 Scandinavian teams, which had a pretty nice battle out in Group A, and Sweden beating Norway, then Norway smashing Denmark, then Denmark snatching one from Sweden. It was a fun little Scandinavian battle in there. But, those three kind of very comfortably qualified from Group A, with Germany joining them.
Not very comfortably.
Just about ahead of... very uncomfortably, I would say, with South Korea and Slovenia all on 2 points. But, those top three teams they're just a level ahead. And then on the other side, we're just seeing France, a team that's been dominant for such a long time, do their business. Unlike the men's team, they came out and really took care of everything in front of them. Had a very, very good group stage with 5 wins, the only undefeated team going into the quarterfinals. And again, Netherlands behind them, who are always the kind of challenge there. And you're just looking, it's really been these 5 teams kind of battling for the last couple of championships. And I know you're going to say, oh, Montenegro got a bronze medal in the last Euros we were together in, but
well, actually, what I was going to say is more of a kind of logical sequence of thinking is, well, in order to get to the Olympics, you have to reach the top of these tournaments. And generally those teams who are at the top of the tournaments happen to get the qualification spots. But no, I do also get what you mean.
More like,
like we were probably 1 or 2 goals away from you being really hyped if, for example, both Angola and Brazil had qualified, which they were quite literally a whisker away from doing. Hungary, I think, can count themselves very fortunate to be third in their group, having drawn with Angola and snuck a victory over Brazil, and the fact that it's Germany of the 3 teams on 2 points rather at the bottom of that other group that have gone through instead of South Korea is a bit of a downer. Would you not be disappointed if the teams you just mentioned, those 4 or 5, didn't qualify for the quarterfinals?
No. I feel like they're just very homogenous teams. They play very similar styles. They have similar approaches to handball. You have the Scandinavian bloc, and then Netherlands, which is really part Danish team, since all the Dutch players go to Odense and kind of train up there. Very similar style. France, slightly different, but again, it's quite a homogenous group of favourites. But saying that, it's kind of the same teams. But my build up into the quarterfinals is, I don't think it's ever been closer between these 5 teams. The fact that we saw Norway, Sweden, Denmark take points off each other. France were, ahead in their group, but again, competing against that other group, anything can happen. And the Netherlands really, actually, probably the most impressive, the team that's kind of progressed the most from the last championship going into the Olympics. So I really, between those 5 teams, I have no idea who's going to win. Anything could happen. It's not really the classic Norway and France ahead of everyone and then other people trying to chase. I think this is a true kind of peloton there of those 5 teams. And immediately in the quarterfinal, we're going to see Denmark against Netherlands, and I think that's the highlight of the quarterfinals.
Yeah. Do you want a world exclusive, Alex, from me? By the time it's one for you, because by the time this podcast comes out, this article will also come out. It's Chris O'Reilly's very own power rankings on Go Handball.
Oh, hit me.
I go from bottom to top, and I'll be intrigued to hear what you have to say. 8, Germany. 7, Hungary. 6, Brazil. 5, Sweden. 4, Netherlands. 3, Denmark. 2, Norway. 1, France.
Spot on, Chris.
Good.
Spot on.
And that leads into what you just said there with Denmark versus Netherlands, 3 and 4. That's blockbuster for a quarterfinal.
It could have been, in that power rankings, it's a flip of a coin between those 2 teams. And I have to say, both teams have really impressed. I think Denmark just kind of, they started with that devastating loss to Norway. Well, they didn't start. They beat Slovenia comfortably, and then they lost by 9 to Norway in a game where, of course, Norway were out for blood after their loss against Sweden in the opening round. But it was just weird. Like, Denmark and Norway played a bunch of games beforehand, as they always do. And they were just completely outclassed by a Norwegian team. Weird to read into. I was getting worried. But after that, I've been very impressed with Denmark. I've been very impressed with Anna Mette Hansen in particular. I think she has been their absolute rock. And doing different things at different times, whether it's assists when needed, whether it's goals at the really crucial times. It's been a really good showing. And this, this Danish team we know it. It hasn't changed too much. The big news, of course, is that Louisa Borgård got injured, is now out of the competition. Do you think that's going to be I initially thought it was going to be an absolutely devastating loss for Denmark. But that's just because I forgot about Mette Tranborg, who hasn't played in attack for quite a long time.
Yeah, because she's been injured for a long time as well. So that's it was kind of a risk putting Tranborg in there because she was literally just coming back from injury. And I do believe that Louisa Borgård is a miss. In attack, she is not always like the leading player, but she's incredibly experienced. She is a very good defender when she's on good form as well. And yeah, it's just one of those people that really drive the strong mentality that we've seen from Denmark over these tight wins over Sweden and Germany. So I think that is a fairly big loss for them. I saw in their game against Korea tonight, which was very much a case of, I think, just get through it, particularly in the second half, that they were playing without a left-hander in the game. So they put Helena Elver on the right wing and brought in Michaela Muller, who's their utility backcourt player, who's come in now as a substitute at right back. So they are down to Mette Tranborg on the right back and Trine Østegård on the right wing. I mean, as long as Østegård's fit, she'll play 60 minutes and that's fine. And, Michaela Muller coming in there, she can play at right back. The same for pretty much anyone in that backcourt. That's kind of the interesting thing about that team, is that you would probably trust any of them. In classic Danish fashion, we think back to their World Championship win for the men, where they had no left-handers back before the riches of Diesel and Kirkelukke and Huxer, that they played an entire right-handed backcourt. So yeah, they also have that as a solution, but it's that always takes a little bit of an edge off a team, I think, having no natural right back in there. So yeah, it does even the odds a little bit more in that quarterfinal.
And Chris, I've just watched, I don't know if you got a chance to catch the mixed 400 meter relay, where the Netherlands and Femke Bol sprinted out ahead, came from, about 15 meters behind in that last leg to absolutely smash her opponents and claim a gold medal.
Herself.
And that's why I think the Netherlands in this competition will be inspired and will be able to cause an upset, because it just feels like a team that's grown up. There was a little bit of a generational shift. The world champions from the previous
2019.
The world champions from 2019, they were like, they were at the very end of their careers. A lot of those players, the likes of Nika Groot and, they kind of, Tess Vester, who's now a journalist at this competition, they kind of stuck around with the team while a few younger players kind of bedded in. And now there's been a kind of a full changeover, I think, in the squad, where we see the likes of Diona Hauser, who may have been a young upstart, and Bo Vettering, who are kind of youngsters. They're in the prime of their careers, while also having the younger players from that World Championship winning squad, like Lois Abing, being absolutely incredible in this competition. And there's just something that feels right for the Netherlands.
And Estefana Polman has really rejuvenated herself, and is, the patience that I think has been shown in her coming back from all of her injury issues and off-court issues. And it's incredible to think that she too, well, she turns 32 in a couple of days' time, and so does Abing. So like they're not old players, and so you have this really nice balance now between that old generation and, like you said, House here, who's 24, and the goalkeepers as well, who probably felt for a long time that they were going to be in the shadow of Tess Vester and Ten Holte at 24 and Doindam at 26. It's coming really good for them, and for that chunk of the young players, like I have a whole other Olympics or two to look forward to. But this could be the Goldilocks of these two generations. This could be the time for them to come together.
Just looking through the squad and their ages, and the whole team is made up of 31-year-olds and 24-year-olds. Like, that is the two ages. And I think that I don't know what happened for 6 years in the Netherlands where they couldn't produce a handball player, but it seems like they've got two generations at the right time. 24 is a great time for a handball player. They're really hitting their peak, and 31 is really the peak of a lot of, like, the end of a peak. So both kind of generations are in their top years, either side of it, and it seems to be clicking for the Netherlands. And in terms of their matches, which have you caught any of them, and how they looked in those, in particular in some of those games, where what's impressed you about
what's impressed me about them is how not dramatic they were. Even in not, maybe not in a great way. The loss to France was kind of like, it's a kind of classic France-Netherlands game where they're going to be relatively close, but France are going to be the better team. But in every other one, the closest team that came to them was Angola right at the beginning. And besides that, it's been a swathe of comfortable victories. I like how Perry Johansson has brought the team together over the time, and he is a Swede, but he's a Balkan coach, and so we do have a little bit of the Balkan mentality and vibe in there as well. And I think that seems to suit some of the players quite well. So they have a little bit of an edge in that sense. But really, there's not too much to like point out as like, I'm too worried about a certain thing, except for the fact that they haven't been able to deliver at the Olympics before. Like when they won that World Championship in 2019, it was like almost a freak occurrence, and they won a huge semi-final, and then they're like, we get to play Spain in the final. This is great. So I think that's the only thing maybe missing for them, because they've, in the Netherlands history, they haven't been able to consecutively win massive games, and now they have got 3 massive games back to back en route to getting a medal here, starting with Denmark, and then Norway or Brazil, and then France or Sweden or someone else. So it's like, who knows? Maybe they'll get all the way through the final and face Sweden, and they'll have the same kind of mentality as Spain. But overall, I've been pretty impressed with how how normal the games have been for them. They've just been really solid.
So with all of that, Chris, do you think they're gonna win? They're gonna get the big win against Denmark?
There's gonna be one winner here, and that's handball, Alex. No, no, we will make some predictions, but we'll do that right at the end of the podcast. They can win, but whether they will win or not, well, it's not up to me, but I will say what I think later on.
I feel we made a crucial error in our predictions, because we should have just gone for predicting the group, because that's straightforward. I think we could have probably picked out these teams when predicting the group. And then we'd have loads of good kind of juju with us, and we're experts now. We're just like we're facing 4 ties that can go either way, and we're putting our necks on the line. Terrible decision on that, but we will make some predictions.
That's how we roll. Well, can the next game on our list, France Germany, go either way?
No, it absolutely cannot.
For fear of outing the people who are saying this to me, but let's just say the vibes among the German press corps are not strong at the moment, to the extent of like we shouldn't even let them play the quarterfinal.
Germany, weird team in this tournament so far, because they've put in a couple of really good performances and a couple of absolutely embarrassing, like what's going on here performances, starting with that loss against South Korea. Embarrassing is probably a bit of a stretch, but that was a huge surprise, and South Korea showed that they really weren't quite at the level to compete. Then when the pressure game in the middle came against Slovenia, they beat them by 19. They're just like, what's good? This is incredible. They also had a good game against Denmark. They kept that close, even though really Denmark kind of sealed the win and let them back in. But then today, just against Norway, that was an absolute disaster. They lost by 12 goals, and that was with Katharina Filter making 14 saves. Now, it was an absolute mauling by Norway. Norway had Rystad back in full flow. We'll get on to that. But Germany just, I don't know. I don't know who their best player is, or even if they have a player at the top level. The closest is Xenia Smits, just because she does so much all around the place. But she's not like a big scorer. Then other than that, I'm just, who's your star? It's not Emily Bulk. She hasn't gone on to kind of greater heights. Alina Greishils isn't playing at all. And it's just this kind of mesh of players that just doesn't seem to be working for them.
And on paper, this group of players should, be able to compete with anyone in this competition, because they are playing their club handball at a really high level. Basically half of the squad in the last year or two have played in a Champions League final or a semi-final, right? And remember, it was only 1 year ago that Emily Bulk scored that incredible match winner for FTC. And the problem among the experts seemed to be that the way the team is shaped and the tactical setup is just not, as you said, it's getting rid of the individual brilliance that now means you're not sure who the star is anymore, because it's so much of a process-based team, or like a almost too stringent a setup.
Yeah, it's like the old school German handball. The type of handball that I think we've all moved on from, and maybe it's just like you're running through the moves. It's almost like a stereotype, the robotic German handball team that is running through moves, but no one, just for the sake of it, without actually improvising or having options in attack and really thinking about everything on the fly. Maybe that's tactically what's going wrong.
They can, based purely on some individual brilliance for a few moments and some vibes, give France a little bit of difficulty in this quarterfinal, but France are just too good, and they are enjoying a home championship too much, and they have an actual 14-player squad which they will use to strangle you one way or another. If it doesn't work after 15 minutes, they're going to change the whole team. If it does work after 15 minutes, they're going to change the whole team. Either way, they're going to keep at you, and I don't know if Germany have the ability to deal with that, even if they have a great start. And there was a bit of panicking there today. They had a really good start against Norway. They went 3-0 up, conceded then 6 on the trot, took a time out and said, okay, we're going 7-on-6. It's like, oh God, it's like panic stations already. And I have a fear that it's going to be a bit of a procession for France.
France have won 29 of their last 30 handball games, Chris. The only loss in that period was a friendly against Norway leading up to this competition. So we can probably ignore that. France have looked unbeatable since the European Championship back in 2022. A long time ago. As you said, it's a team that's really enjoying the home championship, and it's been quite interesting to see the like passionate support that the French have been giving their home teams, their home athletes across the Olympics. You know, have you made it to the pool yet, Chris, or is it
yes.
a little bit far away?
I have. No, I've been for a morning session to the pool, and even then, in like the heats, I mean, they're just. Just a side note, there's not been one event I've been to that hasn't had like a full house in, except one, which was at Roland Garros, because there's 20 courts playing simultaneously. So, but when it comes to like a single event in a single arena, 9 o'clock in the morning for handball, or 4 in the afternoon for judo, or 10 in the evening for beach volleyball, it's full. And it's the French fans and all the people traveling in have embraced it to a level that I saw in London 2012. Incredible stuff. So yeah, and that's one of the main things that people have been saying about the crowds as well at the handball matches. They're not handball fans, it's not the handball crowd. It's a sports crowd, and it's a little bit more, yeah, we're gonna cheer everything.
Yeah, I do love that.
You know, which is really nice. They're not snobs, you know. Even a great like assist, people are like, if somebody does something that's like mildly athletic, they go wild for it, and they're like, that's handball. Who are we to deny them their joy in all of this? And yeah, the French women are really lapping it up. I spoke to Tamara Horacek a few days ago, and she just had a big smile on her face the entire time thinking about it. And it was very much like, I think what she said, her focus very much being on the here and now, enjoy, like really making the most of every game, is a good way to look at it when you're as good as France.
Yeah.
Not everyone can do that, but when you're as good as France and you want to then like get that extra little bit to drive you towards the final, that's a really good way to do it.
And they're going to be buoyed by an even bigger crowd in Lille, of course. We didn't mention it, but of course the handball competition switches to the big stadium in Lille. 27,000 fans, quite a bit away from Paris, but I think judging by the crowds in this competition, I have a feeling that it's going to be sold out. It's just a couple of game days, you know, quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals. They're going to be sold out, and I think that is going to be a huge advantage for France. You know, that kind of crowd, that kind of level, against, let's say, slightly more inexperienced teams like Germany. I think Germany will absolutely wilt in the cauldron in front of this French team. So I think I'm ready to put one prediction out ahead of our prediction round, and I think that's France to beat Germany quite comfortably.
We'll find out soon if I agree with you. No. Hungary, Sweden, Alex. I've seen a lot of Sweden. I've seen a fair bit of Hungary. For me, this one is not as clear cut as France, Germany. But if you asked both teams before the championship, you'd have a quarterfinal against the other. They'd be quite happy with that, which is a weird one.
Yeah, I think so. You had a little chat with Ola Selby from Handball's Kanalen, and he seemed quite down on this Swedish team. Really not that impressed with their level, despite their kind of huge opening win against Norway, where we were all impressed, but they seem to have wilted a little bit, and their backcourt seems to be getting lost. And I don't think we spoke after that Denmark-Sweden game where Denmark won 25-23 and really pulled it out of the bag. Sweden being up 23-21 with 9 minutes left before Denmark went on a 4-goal run. That was crazy. That just turned into pure chaos. Sweden forgot how to play handball, and they just kept giving the ball to Tia Axner. For some reason, she was the only person who got the chance to shoot or score, and this 22-year-old obviously didn't really stand up to the challenge when all hopes of the team fell to her in kind of dying attacks, and they were like, okay, shoot from 10 meters. You're the only thing that we have. So that was a little bit scary watching Sweden after some impressive performances. Have they figured things out a little bit more in the backcourt, do you think?
The strange thing about them is that there is some figuring out to do, mainly due to the fact that they suddenly have some options. They've brought in, like, Nina Koppang is now become the right back and is very young. Tia Axner has been given more and more of an opportunity at left back, and it is the first time for her, like, really trying to step up for this team. And so it's not just a case of okay, we're going to use the same three players, like Lindqvist as a right-handed right back, Carlson in the centre, and Roberts on the left-hand side. So I guess that is the thing they have to figure out, because they have a squad now, which is no bad thing, particularly when they're big weapons. So, think of Koppang and Axner offer something that not too many other teams have in their left and right backs, like big shooters on both sides, but inconsistent shooters. So it's maybe a little bit of growing pains for them. So I don't think they're going to figure it out like perfectly in that time, but it doesn't mean that they can't have a great game in a quarterfinal or semi-final, and they don't need everyone to have a great game. If they have two of those backcourt players having a massive game, the defense is strong, and for the most part Johanna Bunsen is having a stormer. Wasn't so great today, but in general is having a brilliant tournament. Then they have a really good chance against any team. The problem position is the left wing for them. Elin Hansson is their only left winger. For a while they actually put Yamina Roberts on the left wing because she went 1 from 5 at some point. She's just a little bit too inconsistent for this level. I think teams will try to exploit that. When they came back against Slovenia in this last game, they basically forgot about the wings. And it worked out. They're the wild card for me in this tournament, and I think that's why Ola wasn't so high on them, because they almost like scored too early in beating Norway in that first game, and then everything else after that is a disappointment. But they've done enough to finish in second place and be able to fight for a medal. I think they're better than Hungary. They have more weapons than Hungary, but those weapons can also misfire.
I've really liked Hungary in this competition, but it seems like, unlike the Netherlands, where we spoke about players being the right age and syncing generations together, Hungary feels like a team that's kind of let go of a generation and a new one hasn't come up yet. Someone like Petra Sumon has been really, really exciting. The FTC centre back, who's been really exciting in the competition so far, but she's 19. She's just not ready to take on the pressure of leading a team in their Olympics. I don't know, I get good feelings about this Hungary team in this competition so far for some reason, even though they could have easily been out of the competition with losses against Brazil and Angola, but they got a win and a draw there to get through. Do you think they stand a chance against Sweden?
They do. I think they're one of those teams that are always awkward for Sweden, and they have players that can do it. Like the wingers, that winger battle, like the wingers are better. Lukac and Schatzel, and then you mentioned the young playmaker, basically the two Petras, and Katrin Kloiber. That's the big question mark. It's
always is.
It's going to be 7 out of 8, or it's going to be 4 out of 13, and that could be the decider in the end, because on paper they're there for a reason. They snuck through, but I'd put them as underdogs with the potential to make life very difficult. And I think that's where they want to be.
Yeah, I think it's
the Hungary way.
It is. It is the Hungary way. It'd be terrible if they were favourites. They would collapse immediately and lose by 20 goals if they weren't underdogs here. But I do think it's like a 60-40 matchup, which does give Hungary a decent chance, I think.
That leaves one more, and that is Norway against Brazil, which I'm really looking forward to. I think it'll be a good test for Norway, and for Brazil, I don't think they would care who they play against. They are going to give one hell of a time to whoever they're playing against, win, lose, or draw, and I think it's going to be an exciting match.
I'm a little bit sad that Brazil are playing Norway, because I want to sit here and tell you that they figured it out. Their attack is getting better. Murashi is still a star. But I think of all teams, Norway is just way too experienced and they have too many top players to really lose against Brazil. I don't think that's the case against other teams like Sweden and Denmark. If Brazil had just if Brazil did get that win against Hungary that they absolutely deserved, I think they'd be in a nice position going into the rest of the competition. It did seem like they did figure things out against Angola, and it really just was a kind of their attack completely stagnated in the middle after kind of their first 2 games. They became insanely reliant on Bruno de Paula in attack, which meant the teams literally, man marked or personal marked Bruno de Paula games because they really weren't scared of the Brazilian team. I think there's been a little bit of a shift there to give some of the other players an opportunity and kind of the bravery to take their chances, and maybe we'll see that coming against Norway. But as I mentioned a little bit earlier, Henny Reistad just had 8 goals and 7 assists in the last group game for Norway, and if Henny Reistad does that, game over.
That is the big difference, isn't it? Henny was really missing in that first game, and I was a little bit concerned whether she would be able to find the form that they need her to be in, but she's come back in pretty quickly. So whatever injury she did have, whether it be ankle or foot, didn't seem to bother her too much when she actually got on the court. And Nora Merck coming back from a short injury break as well. I mean, I figured at the time it was maybe more of a resting her rather than a proper injury to that calf. There was a big injury concern at the end of the game for Norway in Vilde Ingstad. She suffered what looks like a knee injury, and Katrina Lunda said the same, which really had the entire team devastated at the end, as it looks like her Olympics is over. But that is perhaps one position where they are still very strong, where they have Kari Bratsett Dala, probably one of the best, if not the best line player both ways in the world, and Maren Ardal there to supplement that. So they will be okay. And yeah, I mean, you think a massive defensive performance and goalkeeper performance would maybe bring, that's like Brazil's way into it, winning like 16-15 or something like that. Like a game for the ages.
No, I actually don't think that, because I think they're likely going to get a massive defensive and goalkeeping performance, but they're still going to need to score more than 25 goals. Even if they play the best defensive and goalkeeper game of their lives against Norway, they're going to have to score 25 goals, which means they need something to happen in the attack. Just those two will not be enough. Again, Henny Reistad. And let's not forget Stina Offedal, who's having a really, really good competition so far. She's top of the assist leaders with 32 after the first 5 games, and is really running the show for Norway, as we've seen her do it for a long time. But with Norway, maybe depth is starting to become a little bit of an issue. You know, Ingstad, I think you said, of course they have Kari Brattadale, but you know, with Ingstad gone, they do lose an option there. I'm trying to make up a reason, Chris.
Yeah.
I do it all the time because I'm just looking at this depth chart.
They're still very
Veronica Christiansen's there at the bottom.
Well, that's the other aspect of this. Like, if you think about Bruna Japala as well, you know, she will be facing one half of the court who have trained with her every single day this season, who know every little shimmy, shake, feint, you know, anything she has up her sleeve. Stina Offedal, Veronica Christiansen, Kari Brattadala have seen it over and over and over and over again, and they will just be surrounding her saying, come on, what do you got for us? And maybe that is going to be too much to handle in the end. But no, Brazil will have a great crowd. The fan support has been amazing for them, and they'll go out on their shield. That's for sure. They won't go out in a whimper. It won't be a boring game. Even whether it's a 16-15 or a 42-33 or something like that, they'll go out hard.
They will. It will be exciting, I hope. And then, I do think that is the tougher side of the draw as well. Norway, Brazil, the winner of that playing Denmark or Netherlands. So really anything can happen there. But I think we're pretty safe to make some predictions there, Chris, right?
Shall I go first?
Go for it.
I'm going to go Denmark to face Norway. France to face Sweden.
Lame.
The same old. I didn't realize that was the same. I know that was the same as the World Championship. Just a few
How
months
many
ago.
times are we going to see those teams face off against each other?
Well,
Likely at least one more time. But I'm again. I something tells me Netherlands breaking some Danish hearts. But Netherlands, Norway, France, Sweden. I think it's Sweden, but it's going to be close. It gets hungry.
yeah, I think there are two which could go either way. Basically, now we await France losing incredibly to Germany, and we'll have to replay all of the us taking the piss. But that's why we do it. Thank you all for listening to this women's quarterfinal preview. On the rest of the Olympics note, Alex, before we let everyone go, what else are you looking forward to? Any big predictions about the Olympics for the next 8 days?
Oh, a big prediction. I'm going to throw out a huge prediction, is that's USA basketball does not win a gold medal. That's my big hot take of the Olympics. Otherwise, I'm excited for track and field to really take hold and take center stage. Gymnastics has been a blast, and it's It's already coming to an end, Chris. So
There's 8 days to go.
8 days to go, but it's coming to an end. There's only like 16 men's matches and 16 women's matches to go, Chris. It's running out.
There's only 100 hours of sport I can watch now. Right, enjoy it, everyone, and we'll be back shortly. Back on Monday, in fact, with the preview for the men's quarterfinals. Take care and goodbye.